Despite the challenges, the pandemic continues to prompt remarkable innovations across different industries. Companies have found new ways to adapt to the crisis, but will opportunistic changes made during turbulent times also create opportunities for systematic growth after the pandemic passes? In studio, I'm joined by Innovations Manager Safia Verji and RPAS pilot Sobira Abdul Razak from the Kenya Red Cross Society as they share their innovative response amid COVID-19 from the use of drones, satellite imagery to innovation labs. Thank you so much for creating time. Now, quickly, the Kenyan Red Cross Society has used innovations to respond to different disasters and even transform societies. Now, you have used drones for data collection. Please tell us a bit about that. Sobira.
Thank you. Yeah. So the Kenya Red Cross has had drones for about 2.5 years now. We recently set up the unit in 2019 and have about 10 internal pilots. And we have 4 really cool drones. We have multi-rotors and fixed-wing drones, which have different use cases. So in terms of data collection, we have been using the Wingcha 1 fixed-wing drone. And in terms of COVID, we've used it for some COVID risk mapping in Mukuru. We've done that in Nakuru as well. So basically, in terms of COVID, we have done it for a lot of risk mapping.
Yeah, we just saw what she did there. She said Nakuru and Mukuru.
Mukuru.
Yeah. But you have mentioned 4 types of drones, but people do not really understand what these types of drones are. Would you mind breaking down, this drone is used for this purpose and this one for this purpose? Would you mind?
No, I don't mind. So we have the DJI Mavic drones, which are multi-rotor drones. That means they have the propellers. And we use those mostly for imagery collection, some documentation here and there. They're the smaller drones. Then we have the one that likes to show off. She's the Wingcha 1 drone. She's really cool, super efficient. She's a fixed-wing drone, but she's a hybrid of fixed-wing and multi-rotor drone. She's super fast. Then we have the latest addition, I believe. She's a DJI Agras drone. That is ideally an agricultural drone, but we've been using it for disinfection purposes. During COVID, we piloted that for COVID. So yeah, those are 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Safia, what prompted the use of or the adoption of these drones?
So it started off with a conversation about how do we become more efficient in decision making. And drones allow us to get real-time information. It started with the Solai Dam spill, where there was a lot of households that were affected along the path of the spill. And it was taking volunteers a really long time to go household to household to get data about how many households were affected and number of people. And then so decisions around how much we would need in terms of responding was slow to come. So we thought with the use of satellite imagery and drones, we'd be able to get that data faster. We've recently, also about 2-3 years ago, set up a GIS team at Kenya Red Cross. So they're able to then process the satellite and drone imagery that allow us to generate maps for decision making. So this whole procedure makes decision making and allocation of resources a lot more efficient and accurate.
Talking of, a lot more efficient and accurate, how has this transformed the community's well-being?
Well, in terms of the communities, first of all, allow me to refer to our risk maps. So these are basically maps that we got off, let's say, in case Mukuru, that allowed us to understand Mukuru in depth in terms of the different hotspots of COVID. So we're able to pick out different route maps in the event of evacuations. We're able to pick out what areas are high risk in the event of another wave. So that's basically the theme. So with this information, we would later sit with our different regional branches and disseminate. Am I stammering? Sorry.
Okay.
Disseminate this information to them.
Yeah. And this helps to now go back to relevant stakeholders, Ministry of Health at county level, to agree on pre-positioning of, let's say, health facility equipment or hand washing facilities, etc., depending on where outbreaks are predicted to happen.
Data collection is, a bit tricky, especially on the protection of the data collected. How do you ensure that the data collected is protected?
So as Kenya Red Cross, we have a data protection policy, which guides the way that we collect, store, manage data. But also in terms of, if you're looking at drones, we do a lot of community entry meetings so that they understand why we're collecting this data and what it will be used for. And then once we have the end product, it's kept with the Kenya Red Cross. And if any partner wishes to access it, then we sign NDAs so that there's a clear framework around who has access to that data.
And how fast is, do the drones and the imagery and the satellite, all those things, how swift are they in providing that data to you?
It's relative, depending with, of course, if it's mapping, depending with the size of the place we're mapping, this could take a number of days for the data to be collected. Processing is a whole other ballgame, but usually timelines would be maybe a month in terms of processing of data, then disseminating it to the end user, right? But it's all relative.
It's all relative. How about the measure of accuracy?
It's really accurate, especially with drone imagery. Like Sobir was saying, the Wingtra 1 gives us 1 centimeter resolution. So everything you're seeing is like real time almost. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, still on satellite imagery. Now, with climate change still being a crisis, what are the latest findings?
So for satellite imagery, we've mostly been using it for flood risk mapping. So that's through the research and learning team. So they've been working with the climate team to map out flood risk areas, or to get satellite imageries of flood risk areas. So one thing that we could do is to get like a trend analysis. So you're able to see the differences season by season or year by year, and you're able to predict now which areas could be affected by floods. And then in addition to that, we've been using satellite imagery and drones in a partnership with the RCMRD. So they work regionally with data. And we're doing a project in the Kingdom of Eswatini with the NDMA there to use this technology to help predict effects from droughts. So what kind of up-to-date or real-time information could we have to make decisions to support communities that are often affected by drought?
Prior or after?
Both. Both, yeah. So prior meaning in terms of preparedness.
Yes, in terms of preparedness.
Yeah, so to say like these are how many acres that could be affected, for example, or if it was like, if we're talking about even floods, these are the farms that could be at high risk because of upstream there could be heavy rains and then it comes downstream. So that could be from a preparedness perspective, and then from a response perspective, we're able to use it to see how many floods or how many farms or acreage has been affected, and then use that information to then support recovery.
Now, the Kenya Red Cross Society, in partnership with Now, the Kenyan Red Cross Society, in partnership with agencies including the International Federation of Red Cross IFRC, Qatar Red Crescent and Sudan Red Crescent Society, have set up innovation labs in Lamu County. The innovation labs, equipped with laser machines, CNC machines and woodwork workshops, aim to empower communities and innovators to enhance local skills and talent to create, build and improve solutions to strengthen resilience and economic empowerment. Here are some of the testimonials from beneficiaries.
Hizi vitu zingine nikawa tu najaribu kuibandu na macho. Yaani nione tu kitu kama hivi, niangalie kitu kama hii, naona inakatwa na mashine, naweza kata, naweza kufanya carving, naenda najaribu na tengeneza.
Venye nimekuja hapa, I've been able to understand that everything is possible. Anything that, as long as you can put it down on paper, unaweza ukakuja kwa reality na ukaitengeneza.
Kama hii lab hapa inaweza kutufaidisha kwa sababu tunaweza kucreate more pieces za art ambazo unaweza kuzi market na kuziuza kwa jumla.
As you can see, these doors are usually very tedious. They'll take around 1 to 6 months to do it. But with our machine, we shall be able to cut down to several weeks or several days.
Actually, 3D printing is going to revolutionize the way we manufacture things, because 3D printing, as you can see, it can do various tasks from the health sector to the education sector to the business sector to the production sector. It can do wonders.
Let me show you what I did with the leather cutting technology.
Great, yeah.
So these are some of lampshades that I created. Actually, I did have a dream before. When I came here, these things are even more astonishing. I didn't even realize that these things exist.
That's Safia.
Well, Subira, being building new, how far has your reach been, and what is the overall goal of the Lamu Innovation Hub?
So our reach so far, so first of all, the lab is located in Lamu. And the overall purpose of the lab, I believe, was to just bring people's dreams into a more reality context, as what they do is that they take up an idea and take you through the ideation phase, and then sort of take you through the prototype phase as well, and then eventually see how they can be able to fund similar projects or how to scale up those ideas.
Safia, what is the overall goal of the Lamu Innovation Hub?
So for us, it's about fostering creativity and growth within the communities that we work with. We realize and appreciate that there are a lot of solutions and ideas within the communities. It's only that there seems to be no safe space to explore these further. So with the lab, with the equipment that we have, with our networks and our links with mentors, experts, even potential donors and investors, we're able to take anybody that has an idea, from designing and ideating all the way to building their initial prototypes, testing, iterating around that idea until they have a final product that they're happy with. And then we can look at how do we help these youth or these innovators to set up then small enterprises that are sustainable and resilient.
You're still in the inception stage.
At the lab, yeah. It's only been operational for about 6-7 months.
What are some of the positives that have come out so far?
I think the fact that this is in Lamu, and it's like mostly innovation hubs and fab labs are found in urban settings. So we have a lot of them in like Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu. But it's like something like this is really not in a rural setting. And then the great thing about Lamu is that a lot of their tradition and culture is in woodworking, in boat making, in embroidery. And so it's like this exposure to new equipment and fabrication tools allows them to really push their skills, explore different ideas and different tools to make their ideas a reality.
What employment opportunities are you projecting to create for the youth in the communities?
So we're really hoping to work with, what we're hoping to do is work with the youth in Lamu and in the coast region, and basically anyone in the country who has an idea, and help them to take their idea all the way to a point where they can actually develop a business plan and get seed funding or seed capital to start a business. So what we're finding is the challenges come from actually getting it to a point where it's sustainable enough to get funding. So we're hoping with our networks, with our links, we'll be able to facilitate that whole process so that the youth then have an actual sort of sustainable business to work with.
I wish you nothing but luck. They say prevention is the best cure, and humanitarian societies like the Kenya Red Cross Society are putting their best foot forward. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you Safia Verji and the Innovation Manager and RPAS pilot Subira Abdul Razak from the Kenya Red Cross Society for creating time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Frontline. I'm your host Lincoln Obogo, and we kick off this show on an analysis on the sparks of creative minds that have turned technology and invented ways works in different sectors just to make your life easier. Paulo James explains.
The outbreak of the Covid-19 disease has posed great challenges to the world economy and people's daily lives, and will have far-reaching consequences beyond the spread of the disease. Performance on the Innovation for Development agenda has been promising but mixed. A number of initiatives and programs have exceeded expectations and are the source for genuine transformative and large-scale development gains. These include lowering the cost of and access to vaccines and medicines in the poorest countries, leveraging artificial intelligence to help identify COVID treatments, telcos to spread public health messages, potential COVID detection through X-ray scans, using mobile money and microfinance to drive financial inclusion and small business development, using community-based approaches to tackle malnutrition and sanitation, using cash transfers to enhance food security, using insurance and other adaptation measures to enhance resilience to disaster and climate change. These successful efforts, though diverse, share common threads. They all involve careful navigation of technical issues relating to innovation itself, business planning issues around how to test, implement, and scale up the innovation in question, and wider institutional and political issues that can often work to maintain the status quo and inhibit novel solutions. Even when the innovation is relatively simple, such as transferring cash to poor communities, success has involved taking a systematic approach. Thanks to the COVID-19 innovations, future will be broader and more human. One can already observe abundant creativity and innovation emerging at the national, institutional, organizational, and individual levels within the countries affected by COVID-19.
Now, from the lack of sheer trust of wearing face masks to many Kenyans remaining defiant of the new normal of having to walk around with the masks, it has presented unique challenges in the fight against the novel coronavirus. But on the upside, creative ideas have also been hatched to loosen the discomfort. In studio, I'm joined by Dr. at the Kenyatta National Hospital. He's also a Kenyan scientist and innovator, Dr. Joseph Nderito. Thank you so much for creating time. Now, Dr. Nderito, your innovation of special types of masks called nanomasks is making headlines. Briefly, tell us about these masks.
Well, as the name goes, it's a nano mask, and you see that's a fusion of the name nano and the mask. And the nano is that prefix basically is a definitive of the fact that it's created through in nanotechnology innovation, and it's to say that basically the mask is the fabric is specially produced with through impregnation of nanoparticles, which have the capacity to kill bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and things like that. So basically, we call them antimicrobial nanoparticles. So when you treat, in technical terms, we say impregnation of a fabric with antimicrobial nanoparticles, it therefore becomes an antimicrobial nanocomposite fabric, or you could call it nanomaterial. And that means that that fabric has the ability to kill microbes upon contact.
Dr. Nderito, I'm tempted to ask, where's my mask? What's the difference between this mask and that nanomask?
This nanomask. There are many differences between those. From the fact that this is reusable to the fact that is non-reusable. And then there is also the fact that this is made from woven fabric, that is made from non-woven fabric. This is has a great percentage of organic fibers, that is synthetic fibers, and but the key thing, maybe those are more of material science sort of level. But the key factor is that this mask is not merely a filter. So that the masks, the normal mask would basically, what we want in a mask is to filter out the microbes that we don't want to breathe in. And this is not just the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine causing COVID-19, is everything that you would ordinarily be breathing in, bacteria, fungi, everything that is in the air is filtered. When it is a mechanical filter, that becomes the end of its protective capacity. It's purely a mechanical filter, and that's the end of it. Now, in order to improve on its ability to protect the user from infection, it would be a good idea to add an extra protective ability, which is the capacity to kill the microbes that it has filtered. The reason why this is important is, if you think from the analogy of vacuum cleaner, everything that the vacuum cleaner takes up, it's collected into a cistern in there, right? And all the dirt remains in there. It's not as if it's going anywhere else. It's remaining in there. That's the same way that the mask is working. Think about it this way. When we are breathing, like you and I are breathing now, we're not wearing a mask. all the dust particles, the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, everything else, and we're breathing it in. So you imagine in the lungs, if you look at it from a microscopic point of view, would look like this, that little container in the vacuum cleaner that's containing all that data. If you're using the mask, it can filter a great deal of all that stuff, right? Much of it inorganic, a lot of it organic, like the bacteria and the viruses you were saying. Instead of just collecting them and making them remain on the surface of the mask, why don't we destroy them, so that instead of, if you think about it this way, the accumulation of those microbes on the mask becomes a danger itself to you and to everybody else. Let me explain it this way. If you do not have COVID-19, you're protecting yourself, right, from whatever you're breathing. So there is obviously something in the air you don't want to go in. But when it comes and it's trapped on the surface, on the outer surface of the mask, and it's not destroyed, it just remains there. And if you do not have a pneumonic process, you're breathing 13 times per minute. If you multiply that by the hour, that's a lot of times. By 24 hours, when you've used that single-use mask, the amount of stuff you've accumulated on the surface of the mask is quite a lot.
Dr. Nderitu, are you saying that these nanomasks kill viruses?
I'm saying they're broad spectrum antimicrobial. So all living microbes will be destroyed by the nanomask upon contact. Bacteria, fungi, and viruses.
That includes COVID-19.
Exactly.
Now, you've said that they're reusable.
Mm-hmm.
How many times can you reuse them?
Now, in terms of the reuse, based on the test, the treatment is supposed to remain for the life of the fabric. So, as you know, any fabric, a fabric that is properly developed can survive for very long, for years, right? However, from a point of view of protection, it's good to take into account the decay rate of any treatment, so that you say if there's a chance that after a single wash you might be losing 1% of the protective capacity of the mask. So the recommendation is therefore, if you've washed up to 100 times, then you can probably consider it. That might be maybe 3 months, 4 months, or something like that.
What's the decay rate of the nanomask?
Now, the decay rate of the nanomask, from a qualitative level, we would say, is you would consider it probably at 0.1% per wash, home wash. However, that's qualitative. The quantitative testing is something that is probably can only be done in very high-tech environments. So that's more of an aspirational level, I would say.
Now, a while back last year, a group of students from the Kenyatta University pursuing different disciplines came together and innovated a ventilator from scratch. The innovative students assembled ventilators in a period of 7 days. The purpose of the innovation being to fill the gap that had been brought by the quagmire of lack of enough ventilators in hospitals following a surge of COVID-19 cases.
The demand for medical equipment is on a steep upward curve, with some countries asking their citizens to be innovative and leave protective materials such as the N95 face mask to the medics. On top of this, COVID-19 patients that are hard hit require the support of ventilators in their breathing. The necessity has pushed a group of 16 students from Kenyatta University pursuing different disciplines including medicine, pharmacy, electrical engineering and biomedical engineering, just to mention but a few, to innovate. They decided as young professionals they could not sit back and watch their fellow Kenyans suffer. With combined efforts from the various disciplines, they have developed a ventilator made from locally available materials in the country.
We instruct the machine that this is the amount of air you're supposed to breathe in. You're supposed to give this amount of pressure within these physiological environments, so that we don't have a machine that is delivering too much pressure to burst maybe the lungs.
Patient X here is a dummy of a person gasping for air, having difficulty in breathing, probably suffering from COVID-19. And sure enough, the prototype here has come to the rescue. The prototype, which has taken 7 intensive days to put together, is awaiting the government's nod for mass production. If approved, the institution can produce up to 50 pieces a week, with the rate set to increase as production continues. The creativity of Kenyans displayed by the local production of face masks to the invention of ventilators shows Kenya's readiness as a country to face the pandemic of COVID-19. David Kagina reporting for Switch TV from Kenyatta University, Nairobi.
Dr. Rito, nanomasks are, without a doubt, great innovation. Have you come up with other innovations to help in the fight against COVID-19 apart from nanomasks?
Well, of course, we've been at it for quite some time. I was one of the fellows who were innovating the ventilators.
Those ventilators?
Well, not with Kenyatta University.
Yeah.
I was actually came up with an innovation a little earlier. It was the first one that, people started talking about in Kenya. And we were working, I presented it to the Cabinet Secretary around the 5th of April. And they decided to take it as a government project. And we moved to start developing it at the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute in South Sea. And I think we don't have it yet. And the development, I don't know whether they're still going on with it, but I'm not part of it. I've not been part of it over the last about 12 months or so.
Now let's go back maybe to nanomasks.
Yeah.
How accessible are they?
They're accessible. I have a sales marketing team that is working separately from my scientific work. So they're ready and they're there within the city. We have a lot of them.
Do you think the government of Kenya is doing enough, to support innovations?
No. Being a doctor who's been innovating for years, based on the belief, because I know healthcare, the problem with healthcare in developing countries is purely a technological problem. The difference between healthcare in developing countries and developed countries is just technology, diagnostic technology, therapeutic technology. And I know that because I've been in both settings, developed hospitals in developed countries and here. And therefore, my passion for technology has been driving me. Every problem that I see in the hospital, I want to see how can we improve this based on innovation. So these are things I've been doing for very many years. Even the ventilator design that I presented last year is something that I had from when I was an intern in 2016. But I think after my experience with the ventilator innovation, I haven't worked with government again because it appeared that there wasn't even a system to absorb these innovations and propel them further. So I think the government as is that maybe we should just forget about whether government should be doing innovation at all.
Because if you were to meet with the Cabinet Secretary again, what would you tell him?
I'm not sure.
What advice would you give to him?
What advice
would you give to him?
I'm not sure whether my advice would be useful. I'm not sure whether it's necessary to think about advice at all. People in government, I'm sure, have a lot of advices and all. They understand the scope, for instance, of technology and the whole what is going on in the world, right? So the imagination. I'm a technical guy, right? I don't deal with things at the bureaucratic and political level. I'm very sure they know very well the necessity for technology, and they know the resources that are needed to develop technology. As far as why that is not, it does not translate to policy, is something which probably should only be approached from a philosophical point of view. I'm not sure that my advice as a scientist would be very useful to anyone. That's why I do what I do. This I have done purely on my own, not with government support, not in university support, not any institutional support. This is purely my personal work, and it's primarily adventure. I'm a scientist. I just love to innovate things, just have fun. But it's also the sense that I would like to help improve healthcare in Africa instead of continuing to talk about, government is not doing this. The government can do or not do what they want to do or what they don't want to do. And I, as a proud citizen, as a patriotic Kenyan and as a proud African, I want to do my part.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph Nderito, for making time. Let's take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned.